you wanna bet that I can get you back inside your head before the summer ends and spread a little love. Just for a little fun, I'll make you come back to me before the rise of every sun. Baby, it's meant to be, I know you got a man, but he don't understand. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Rhythm in our love, it's impressive, excessive. You can't make this stuff up. My chest beats, it's restless, wakes the neighbors up above. Yeah, baby, come and show me love. Baby, come and show me love, because you're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
Take a one-way ride, steal us away to find a place we can hide. It wouldn't take much to spear for a night, just to give into the need and leave it all behind.
'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. 'Cause I know that you know that I know that you want me. You told me, now show me, come blow me away. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. You're gonna be a heartbreaker, you're such a love taker. So just suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah. Suck me in and you can toss me like a cigarette, 'cause I just wanna be a bad habit, yeah.
All right. Good morning, folks. Welcome and thank you for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am the People's Pundit, Rich Barris. You guys can follow me on Twitter if you don't already, right there at People's_Pundit. It is Monday, June 8th. All right. So was thinking about what to do today, and really over the weekend, I'm looking at all of the news that's going on, and all I can think about is social bias, and get these questions a million times on my Twitter feed every day, every week. So let's just talk about it and what it is, and then we'll get into some of the news. All right. Actually, let's get into some of the news in a way to explain what it is. So over the weekend, Colin Powell joined Jake Tapper on CNN and told Jake Tapper that he will not be voting for Donald Trump, that he will, in fact, be voting for Joe Biden. And the headlines were, famed Republican in general, Colin Powell says he is not going to vote for Donald Trump. And he joined, shockingly, I mean, it was such a coincidence, the New York Times report that said other Republicans, prominent Republicans like George W. Bush, Jeb Bush, Mitt Romney, have all decided that they will not vote, or they're struggling with Romney will not vote. He said he will pencil in probably Ann Romney. He's full of crap. He's going to vote for Joe Biden. He's a liar, as he always has been. And George W. Bush as well. Let's just watch this segment real quick with Colin Powell, and then we will return to why this is a load of crap.
Seeing tens of thousands of protesters taking to the streets this week in opposition to racial injustice and police brutality. What's been your personal reaction to this moment? Do you think that the country is in something of a turning point?
We are at turning points. I mean, the Republican Party, the president, thought they were sort of immune. They can go say anything they wanted. And even more troubling, the Congress would just sit there and not in any way resist what the president's doing. And the one word I have to use with respect to what he's been doing for the last several years is a word I would never have used before. I never would have used with any of the four presidents I've worked for. He lies. He lies about things. And he gets away with it because people will not hold him accountable. And so while we're watching him, we need to watch our Congress. I watched the senators heading into the chamber the other day after all this broke, with a reporter saying, "What do you have to say? What do you have to say?" They had nothing to say. They would not react. And so we're not a country of just a president. We have a Congress. We have a Supreme Court. But most of all, we have the people of the United States, the ones who vote him in and the ones who vote him out. I couldn't vote for him in '96, and I certainly cannot in any way support President Trump this year.
So, yeah, I know you didn't vote for him in 2016. I assume, based on the fact that you approved Joe Biden when then Senator Obama picked him to be his running mate in 2008, I assume you're going to be voting for Joe Biden?
I'm very close to Joe Biden on a social matter and on a political matter. I've worked with him for 35, 40 years, and he is now the candidate, and I will be voting for him.
He lies. He's the only one to lie. How rich is that, right? So yesterday, I thought this was really appropriate. I tweeted about it. Yesterday, Official Secrets was on Showtime. And it's Keira Knightley, and she is Catherine Dunn, who was the leaker from the GCHQ, who leaked a memo from the Kozak memo, which basically showed before Colin Powell went to the UN Security Council, they were trying to get non-member nations to swing their votes. Really rich of Colin Powell to talk about people who was lying. This is the man who lied to the world and the UN Security Council about the intelligence behind WMDs in Iraq. This is the man who knew he was lying. This is the man who had a grudge against George W. Bush because he didn't have the courage to stand up to the administration. He was supposed to be the non-war voice in the Bush administration who Bush packed with all his old daddy's friends who were warmongers. This is the man telling us now that he has a moral problem with Donald Trump because Donald Trump is a liar. And if you didn't watch Official Secrets, Catherine Dunn leaked the memo from the NSA that asked the GCHQ to help the NSA with the U.S. spy to increase surveillance on diplomats and other key state actors from non-member nations to get dirt on them so they could then blackmail them into voting for a second UN Security Council resolution to make the war in Iraq legal. Everybody knew that the intelligence was being fudged, including George Tenet. Colin Powell knew. Yet he was the one who went to the UN to do the dirty deeds that the Bush administration asked him to do. One of his lawyers helped pressure the Attorney General in the UK to give Tony Blair an opinion that the war would be legal. His original opinion was that it was not legal. He came to DC, he met with that crew, and he changed his opinion because he was pressured. His right-hand woman resigned over it. This is rich coming from somebody like Colin Powell, telling us that he's a lot. But in truth, I told you guys this would happen. To take it down a notch here, I told you about 6 or 8 months ago that we would be subject to what is social bias, a lot of social bias, okay? And it's a form of cognitive bias, and we're going to get into it real soon. But I told you this would happen. A bunch of people would start really circling around and telling everybody in America, you know, that they can't support Trump this time around and pretend like they did, like as if they're pretending, like insulting your intelligence, that they supported this man the first time around. Colin Powell, George W. Bush, the neocons run amok, pretending as if they have just come to their senses now. Something in the last 3 to 4 years has convinced them that he is not the guy to support. Look, Colin Powell, at the very least, has not voted for a Republican, maybe, since 2004. 8, let's say 8. Let's give it to him that he voted for George W. Bush, even though there are a lot of great books out there, and they will tell you that he was mad as hell at the Bushes, that they made him lie, as if like he's not responsible for his own integrity. that he blamed the Bushes for making him lie to the world, not just the American people, to the world and to allies and to citizens in the coalition about WMDs in Iraq, about not only WMDs, but about Al-Qaeda's connection to the Hussein regime and the Ba'athist Party. There was no Al-Qaeda connection to Saddam Hussein. None. Saddam Hussein was a balancing force against Iran in the Middle East. He kept all of the various sects, Muslim sects, in line. Whether you liked him or not, or how he did it, he did it. Sunni, Shia. And then, like Trump always says, actually, he's right about it. Every couple of years, Iraq and Iran would fight. They'd weaken each other dramatically, and we would be stronger for it. Power in the world among hegemons and regional, because I don't believe there is possible for a global hegemon. I don't think the U.S. was ever a global hegemon. I don't think that's possible. Power is measured in relative terms. We were relatively more powerful before that war, which was given to us on a silver platter filled with lies. Anyway, Colin Powell is just among one of them, pretending as if something has occurred in the last 3 or 4 years to make them dislike or not support, to pull their support from Donald Trump. None of this is true. Colin Powell voted for Barack Obama. He hasn't been a Republican. We can conservatively say he has not been a Republican, and he has not voted for a Republican presidential candidate in 16 years. Yet we're supposed to believe all of a sudden Colin Powell, a prominent Republican in general in war Europe, does not support Donald Trump, so neither should you either. And that's the message. Mitt Romney, because this was not an accident, this New York Times thing dropped the same weekend that Jake Tapper booked Colin Powell out of nowhere to talk about this. Mitt Romney did not go from his university speech calling Donald Trump a con man, a fraud, to supporting Donald Trump. And now all of a sudden, because of something, again, that's unknown, unheard of, it caused him now to rethink that support, and Mitt Romney will not be voting for Donald Trump. That did not happen, but it is absolutely intended for you and your fellow Americans to believe that all of a sudden this is a problem. So now you shouldn't vote for him either, because Mitt Romney and Colin Powell have both decided they can't do it. They can't bring themselves morally to support this man. Colin Powell can morally bring himself to lie to the world in front of the UN Security Council, costing the lives of thousands of Americans, including my friends, pulling us away from our key mission in Afghanistan, where the actual terrorists were, where myself and countless other young men at the time wanted to go, joined and volunteered to fight, because that was where the threat came from. He can bring himself to morally do that, and he can sleep with that every night, but he can't sleep for voting for Donald Trump. He can't sleep with that. Also in there was George W. Bush. George W. Bush did not vote for Donald Trump in 2016. There's about as much chance of that as Bill Kristol or Jonah Goldberg or the rest of the failed neocons who destroyed the Republican Party for a generation. There's about as much chance of George W. Bush pulling the lever for Donald Trump. The same goes for Jeb Bush, who was humiliated in his own state by a defeat to Donald Trump. But what does this all do? Okay. This is all designed, and it is not an accident. It is all designed to pressure you, to shame you into not supporting Donald Trump. This is not a defense of Donald Trump. I am simply telling you what is going on here. This is not a defense of Donald Trump. Colin Powell pisses me off because he's just a liar, and to accuse anybody of lying, to pretend like you're all of a sudden not supporting him because it's your quest for truth is a load of crap. And that's a bit personal to me, as I'm sure it is for others who were sold a lie. When you're a soldier, you don't question anything. You just do it. But I can tell you that not even most soldiers believed it. Not the ones I served with. Most of them didn't believe it either. Okay? Anyway, moving on. This is no different than the same pressures and social pressures that you're seeing that caused the editor at the Philadelphia Inquirer to resign over the weekend because he allowed the headline, "Buildings Matter Too." It's no different than the pressures that caused the opinion editor at the New York Times to resign because he allowed Tom Cotton's opinion piece about sending in the troops to restore order during the protests to be published. These are all cut from this. These are all the same. These are the results of the same tactics, the same cognitive biases. What is, all right, so when we talk about, because in polling, and everybody asked me about social desirability bias, and people would ask me after the 2016 election, well, how did you do it? Is it because people were just not willing to tell pollsters about their support for Donald Trump? Was there a hidden Trump vote? And then I get a lot, especially from people on the right who support Donald Trump, questions about, well, look, Trafalgar asked a question. Who do you think your neighbor supports? And that was some kind of like secret sauce that could figure out what the real support for Donald Trump was. And I have told people I never fully buy that. And I want to go over it in the context of what is going on here and what we saw over the weekend. And then is social pressure. And I see that going on. Let's see what happens if it does. Good morning to you too, Jeff. Just saw that in the corner. All right, a cognitive bias, folks. A cognitive bias is